I want to talk about influences on the movie, because I got a real Halloween vibe from it, just from the way...
You did?
Yeah.
That is really cool that you got that. I'll tell you why.
Okay, go for it.
You're going to be very excited about this.
I'm
the fact
already
that you
excited.
said that, I'm very excited.
Perfect.
The first seed of an idea that I had when reading the script, this wasn't even in the script, but this was like an image that came in my mind was and it's in the trailer now, is Brandan flying out there in the window, watching his mother through the window in that big wide
From
shot.
a distance.
From
yeah,
a distance,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the idea was shooting a superhero like John Carpenter shoots Michael Myers. And, in those kind of lurking wides, if you remember from Halloween and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was at the core seed of what I was trying, where the vision grew from.
Amazing.
But look, I grew up on Sam Raimi, Peter Jackson movies. Those guys are my heroes. Obviously, I love James. Long before I met James, I was a fan of Dawn of the Dead. I was a fan of Slither. I knew him when he made Super, but I'm a huge fan of Super. So there's a lot of influences on this movie. But I grew up a lover of horror movies. I grew up waiting in line to meet. I stood in line 10 times to meet Wes Craven and to meet Clive Barker and to meet all these guys. So it's crazy to be here talking about my movie with you right now. I'm pretty excited.
Amazing. I'm wondering, just to jump off that point, what about those type of horror movies lends itself to then sort of blend with superhero storytelling? Where do those kinds of movies meet in the middle with superhero storytelling?
Sure. I watched this documentary a long time ago about horror film creators and the movies that they made, the classic horror movies, And it went into Nightmare on Elm Street, one of my favorite movies of all time. But it went into, a number of these movies. And one of the things that all those creators of those movies said is that so much of what was happening around them at the time influenced greatly what the movie was. So many of those guys went through Vietnam, got traumatized by it, and then went off to create these masterpieces. And to me, right now is when we look back on this time, superheroes have swallowed all of pop culture, and so it is just a natural progression of where things are going to go to create a horror film that is infused with the superhero DNA, that mashes those things up. My goal in this was to create a movie that took something that you felt so safe with, like superheroes, that you always believed in and grew up loving, and turn it into something that you are now scared of, in the same way that it took a clown and did that. So that was really the goal.
It's interesting to me because this movie is clearly the inverse of the Superman story, and it's always so inspiring how Superman came to Earth and chose to do good. But in this movie, he just he chooses. He has this power. He's like, well, I'm going to use it to take over the Earth. And I'm wondering if that feels like to you a more realistic scenario, that a person discovers this power and it ruins them instead of becoming a hero.
Sure. Yeah, we certainly play with superhero tropes in this movie and retell them through a horror lens, But I think that, and maybe this is just the way I think, but if someone out there can hear me and finds an alien baby in the forest, run for your life.
Yeah.
Don't raise
do not
it and
adopt
adopt
that alien.
Yeah, do not do that. That is not a good idea. I think that there's a lot of amazing family movies that are made about superheroes that are full of hope and optimism and altruism, and we keep seeing these stories where people get superpowers and they go off and use it for good, and they get this great moral lesson that teaches them how to use it for good. But that just isn't this movie. This movie is about someone who gets superpowers and uses them against us.
Amazing. So lesson at the end: do not adopt the alien.
Run for your life.
Amazing.